The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas is a tale of extraordinary transformation. It's a story of betrayal, loss, and revenge, but also one of redemption, hope, and the resilience of the human spirit. Set in the political turbulence of post-Napoleonic France, this timeless novel follows the journey of Edmond Dantès, a man whose destiny takes him from innocence to unimaginable power. Let's dive into the world of secrets, justice, and fate as we unravel the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. The sailor with a bright future. Edmond Dantès is a 19-year-old sailor aboard the ship Fernand, returning triumphantly to Marseille after a successful voyage. The captain of the ship has passed away during the journey, and Edmond is being groomed to take his place. His employer, Monsieur Morel, recognizes Edmond's loyalty, skill, and leadership, promising him the captaincy of the Pharaon. Edmond's joy doesn't stop there. He is deeply in love with Mercedes, a beautiful and kind-hearted young woman. The two are engaged to be married, and Mercedes eagerly awaits the day she becomes Edmond's wife. Their future together seems bright and full of promise, with love and ambition lighting their path. But beneath the surface of Edmond's success lies envy and resentment. Danglars, the ship's purser, is jealous of Edmond's swift rise to prominence and desires the position of captain for himself. Fernand Mondego, Mercedes' cousin, harbors an unrequited love for her and views Edmond as the obstacle standing between him and happiness. Château, a neighbor of Edmond's family, also feels bitterness toward the young sailor. Though his envy is less intense than that of Danglars and Fernand, his lack of moral strength prevents him from defending Edmond when the conspiracy begins to unfold. Together, these three men become united in their hatred for Edmond, each for their reasons. Danglars devises a cruel plan to eliminate Edmond. He writes an anonymous letter accusing Edmond of being a Bonapartist conspirator, alleging that Edmond is carrying a letter from Napoleon to his supporters. This letter, if believed, would paint Edmond as a traitor to the newly restored Bourbon monarchy. Fernand and Château support the scheme, though their motivations differ. Fernand sees the plot as an opportunity to rid himself of his romantic rival, while Château, more passive, simply goes along with the plan. The conspirators prepare to act, fully aware of the devastating consequences their betrayal will have on Edmond's life. Unaware of the storm gathering around him, Edmond spends his days preparing for his wedding and his new role as captain. His trust in the people around him is absolute, and he has no reason to suspect the treachery that is about to destroy everything he holds dear. The plot against Edmond unfolds during his engagement party. As he celebrates with Mercedes and their families, soldiers arrive and arrest Edmond on charges of treason. The joyful atmosphere turns to horror as Edmond is taken away, leaving Mercedes and his father devastated. The conspirators, hiding their satisfaction, watch as their scheme begins to take effect. Edmond is brought before Gérard de Villefort, the deputy prosecutor in Marseille. Villefort is a clever and ambitious man who initially appears willing to release Edmond after hearing his side of the story. Edmond explains that he was merely following orders to deliver a letter from the deceased captain of the Pharaon. Villefort's demeanor changes when he reads the letter Edmond was carrying. The letter is addressed to Villefort's father, a staunch Bonapartist whose political connections could ruin Villefort's career. Terrified of the consequences, Villefort burns the letter and decides to imprison Edmond indefinitely to protect his reputation. Edmond is stunned by the accusation and pleads his innocence, but Villefort is unmoved. He assures Edmond that his case will be reviewed, knowing full well that Edmond will languish in prison indefinitely. Villefort's betrayal is driven by self-preservation, but it is no less cruel for its cold calculation. Meanwhile, the conspirators celebrate their success. Danglars, Fernand, and Château believe they have rid themselves of Edmond permanently. Each of them returns to their lives, convinced that Edmond will never be able to seek revenge for their betrayal. Mercedes, devastated by Edmond's arrest, tries to appeal to the authorities but finds no one willing to listen. Her pleas fall on deaf ears, and she is left alone to mourn the man she loves. Edmond's father, overwhelmed by grief and financial hardship, begins to decline rapidly in his health. Edmond is transported to the infamous Château, an isolated fortress prison. Here, political prisoners are sent to be forgotten, and hope rarely survives. As the gates of the fortress close behind him, Edmond begins his descent into despair. The Château d'If, a prison of despair. The Château d'If is a grim and forbidding fortress surrounded by water. Its isolated location makes escape nearly impossible, and the prisoners are left to rot in its damp, dark cells. Edmond, who had never known despair before, now finds himself consumed by it. His pleas of innocence are ignored, and he is left to wonder why he has been so cruelly betrayed. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months. Edmond begins to lose track of time, as the monotonous routine of prison life dulls his mind. The young sailor, once full of hope and ambition, begins to succumb to hopelessness. He blames himself for his misfortune, unable to comprehend the depths of the conspiracy against him. But as the years pass, Edmond's despair turns into anger. The initial shock of his imprisonment gives way to a burning desire for justice. He resolves to find out who betrayed him and to make them pay. This determination keeps him alive, giving him a purpose even in the darkest moments. Edmond's anger is tempered by moments of doubt. He questions whether his vengeance will bring him peace or if it will only deepen his misery. Nevertheless, he clings to the hope that one day he will be free to seek answers and justice. The turning point in Edmond's life comes when he hears strange noises coming from the wall of his cell. Initially believing it to be rats, he discovers that another prisoner is digging a tunnel. This discovery reignites Edmond's hope and curiosity. The prisoner is revealed to be Abbé Faria, a brilliant scholar and former priest who has been imprisoned for his political beliefs. Faria's arrival in Edmond's life changes everything. The two men form a bond, and Edmond begins to learn from Faria, who becomes both a mentor and a father figure to him. Faria teaches Edmond languages, science, philosophy, and history, transforming him from an uneducated sailor into an intelligent and resourceful man. Edmond's world expands within the confines of his prison cell, and his mind sharpens with every lesson Faria imparts. A mentor and a secret treasure. Abbé Faria becomes the most important figure in Edmond's life during his imprisonment. Despite being labeled as mad by the guards, Faria is anything but insane. He is a scholar, a man of science and intellect, who has been unjustly confined for years. Faria takes Edmond under his wing, and their shared isolation forms the foundation of a deep friendship. Faria teaches Edmond a variety of subjects, including languages, mathematics, philosophy, and strategy. The young sailor, once naive and uneducated, becomes an intelligent and calculating man. Over time, Edmond transforms not only his mind, but also his perspective on life. His anger and despair are redirected into a focused determination to seek justice. During one of their conversations, Faria reveals the existence of a vast treasure hidden on the island of Monte Cristo. The treasure belonged to the Spada family, an ancient and wealthy lineage. Faria had been entrusted with its location through coded documents that only he could decipher. The treasure's value is beyond comprehension, capable of granting unimaginable power to whoever possesses it. At first, Edmond believes Faria's tale to be a product of his so-called madness, but as he learns more about the details, he realizes the story is real. The prospect of the treasure gives Edmond a new purpose. If he escapes, he will seek out the fortune and use it to reclaim his life and exact his revenge. Faria and Edmond also work on a plan to escape from the Château d'If. They dig a tunnel over several years, hoping it will lead them to freedom. But as they near completion, Faria suffers a severe seizure, a result of his deteriorating health. He confesses to Edmond that he has little time left to live. Before his death, Faria gives Edmond the map to the treasure and his final blessings. The loss of Faria devastates Edmond, but it also hardens his resolve. He knows he must carry on the mission alone, using all that Faria has taught him. When Faria finally dies, Edmond seizes the opportunity to escape by hiding in the shroud meant for Faria's burial. The guards, unaware of the deception, throw the body into the sea, believing it to be Faria. Edmond swims to freedom, reborn as a man with a singular goal: revenge. The island of Monte Cristo. Once free, Edmond joins a group of smugglers and earns their trust by proving his courage and resourcefulness. His new companions unwittingly take him near the island of Monte Cristo, where he claims he must retrieve something left behind during a previous voyage. They agree to leave him there temporarily, allowing Edmond to explore the island alone. Edmond meticulously searches the island based on the map left by Faria. The terrain is rugged and unforgiving, but his determination drives him forward. After days of searching, he finally discovers a hidden chamber deep within a cave. Inside, he finds the treasure Faria had described: gold coins, jewels, and priceless artifacts. The sight of the treasure overwhelms Edmond. For a moment, he is overcome with gratitude for Faria, who gave him the knowledge and strength to reach this point. But this feeling is quickly replaced by the cold calculation of what must come next. Edmond knows that with this fortune, he can rebuild his life and exact his vengeance. Edmond carefully hides most of the treasure, taking only enough to establish his new identity. He leaves Monte Cristo as a transformed man, now possessing both immense wealth and a sharp intellect. He adopts the persona of the mysterious Count of Monte Cristo, a man of extraordinary means and unknown origins. Returning to Marseille under this new guise, Edmond begins to investigate what has happened to those who betrayed him and to those he loved. He discovers that his father has died in poverty, unable to cope with the loss of his son. Mercedes, believing Edmond to be dead, has married Fernand and now has a son. The knowledge of his father's death and Mercedes' marriage deepens Edmond's resolve. He vows to bring ruin to those who caused his suffering. His plans for revenge begin to take shape as he prepares to re-enter society as the Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo emerges. Edmond's transformation into the Count of Monte Cristo is complete. He uses his newfound wealth to create an aura of mystery and power. He establishes a luxurious lifestyle, complete with servants, exotic possessions, and connections to influential figures. His enigmatic personality captivates everyone he meets, but no one suspects his true identity. The Count makes his way to Paris, where many of his enemies now reside. Danglars has become a wealthy banker, Villefort is a high-ranking prosecutor, and Fernand has risen to the rank of general. Each of them has built their success on lies and betrayal, and Edmond is determined to bring them to justice. The Count's first step is to gain their trust. He carefully orchestrates encounters with each of his enemies, presenting himself as a generous and influential nobleman. He offers financial support to Danglars, befriends Villefort's family, and ingratiates himself with Fernand's social circle. As he integrates himself into their lives, the Count gathers information about their weaknesses and past crimes. He discovers that Villefort's family is plagued by corruption and secrets. Danglars' greed has left him vulnerable, and Fernand's military career is built on treachery. Despite his focus on revenge, Edmond encounters moments of humanity. He crosses paths with Mercedes, who immediately senses something familiar about him. Though she does not recognize him as Edmond, her intuition tells her that the Count is not what he seems. The Count also befriends Maximilien Morel, the son of Monsieur Morel, who had tried to save Edmond years ago. Maximilien's integrity and kindness remind the Count of the man he once was, and their friendship becomes a source of solace amid his dark plans. Revenge begins, Danglars Downfall. The Count of Monte Cristo begins his quest for revenge by targeting Danglars, the man whose greed and jealousy initiated the conspiracy against him. By now, Danglars has become a wealthy but unscrupulous banker whose only concern is amassing more wealth. The Count exploits Danglars' greed, presenting himself as an affluent investor eager to do business. The Count manipulates Danglars into making a series of disastrous financial decisions. He uses his vast resources to create false opportunities, leading Danglars to invest heavily in ventures that ultimately fail. As a result, Danglars loses his fortune, leaving him humiliated and powerless. But the Count doesn't stop at financial ruin. He reveals Danglars' role in the betrayal, exposing him to the judgment of society. Danglars, once respected and feared, becomes a pariah, abandoned by his peers and family. Stripped of his wealth and reputation, he flees, seeking refuge in obscurity. The Count, satisfied that Danglars has received justice, reflects on the consequences of his actions. While he feels a sense of accomplishment, he also begins to question whether his revenge truly brings him peace. The memory of Faria and his teachings about forgiveness lingers in his mind, but his resolve remains firm. Despite his inner conflict, the Count presses on. He knows that Danglars is only the first of his enemies, and the others must also face the consequences of their betrayal. With Danglars out of the way, the Count turns his attention to the next target, Fernand Mondego. Fernand Mondego, the General Unmasked. Fernand Mondego, now a decorated general and wealthy nobleman, has built his life on lies and treachery. His betrayal of Edmond was driven by his love for Mercedes, whom he eventually married after Edmond's imprisonment. Fernand's rise to power, however, is not without its dark secrets. The Count meticulously investigates Fernand's past and uncovers a series of crimes, including his betrayal of a Greek ruler named Ali Pasha. Fernand had promised to protect Ali Pasha, but ultimately sold him out to his enemies, resulting in the ruler's death and the enslavement of his daughter, Haydée. Using Haydée as a witness, the Count orchestrates a public trial to expose Fernand's treachery. During the trial, the truth about Fernand's actions comes to light, and his reputation is destroyed. Mercedes and their son, Albert, are horrified to learn of Fernand's betrayal and disown him. Fernand, unable to face the disgrace, takes his own life. The Count watches from a distance, feeling a mixture of triumph and sorrow. While Fernand's death marks the success of his revenge, it also reminds him of the personal toll his quest has taken. Mercedes, devastated by the revelation and Fernand's suicide, confronts the Count. She recognizes him as Edmond Dantès and pleads for him to abandon his path of vengeance. Her words strike a chord with Edmond, who begins to question whether his actions are justified. Despite his doubts, the Count continues his mission. He knows that one more enemy remains, Villefort, the prosecutor who sent him to prison to protect his own interests. Villefort's family's secrets. Villefort, now a powerful prosecutor, has carefully maintained the facade of a respectable public servant. However, his family is plagued by dark secrets. The Count, aware of Villefort's hypocrisy, decides to use these secrets to bring about his downfall. The Count learns that Villefort's wife, Madame de Villefort, is a poisoner. She has been systematically murdering members of their family to secure an inheritance for her son. The Count subtly encourages her actions, providing her with a rare poison and watching as the family begins to unravel. Villefort's daughter, Valentine, becomes a target of Madame de Villefort's schemes. The Count intervenes, saving Valentine and helping her reunite with her true love, Maximilian Morel. Their love story provides a glimmer of hope amid the darkness of the Count's revenge. As Villefort's family collapses under the weight of its secrets, the prosecutor himself faces public disgrace. The truth about his wife's crimes and his own corruption is revealed, leaving Villefort broken and alone. In a fit of madness, he digs through the ruins of his home, searching for the remnants of his once respected life. The Count, witnessing Villefort's downfall, begins to feel the emptiness of his victory. He realizes that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, cannot undo the pain of the past. His thoughts turn to the possibility of redemption and a new beginning. Redemption and forgiveness. Having completed his mission of revenge, the Count reflects on the consequences of his actions. While his enemies have been punished, he feels no true sense of peace. The lessons of Abbé Faria and the words of Mercedes weigh heavily on his conscience, leading him to reconsider his path. The Count finds solace in helping others. He arranges for Maximilian and Valentine to be married, ensuring their happiness and securing a legacy of hope and love. Their union symbolizes the triumph of goodness over the darkness of vengeance. The Count also reconciles with Mercedes, who forgives him for his actions and encourages him to seek peace. Although they part ways, their farewell is filled with mutual understanding and respect. Mercedes chooses a quiet life, while the Count prepares for a new journey. Before leaving, the Count meets Maximilian one last time. He gifts the young man a fortune, ensuring that he and Valentine will never face financial hardship. The Count's final words to Maximilian emphasize the importance of hope and faith in the face of adversity. The Count of Monte Cristo is a story of transformation and the enduring power of the human spirit. From betrayal and despair to vengeance and redemption, Edmond Dantès' journey reminds us that justice is not always found in revenge, but in forgiveness and renewal. As the Count sails away into the horizon, his legacy is one of both triumph and reflection, leaving behind a world forever changed by his extraordinary story.